You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Rocky Mountain Rooftop Network, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I am your host, Skyler Timmins, joined here, not once again, by Evan Lang. Evan is been down with the sickness, not down with the good sickness, so he's a little bit out of commission, so we're running solo. We've had to leave him off the division roster. And so we'll fly solo today. It should be a maybe a little bit shorter episode. We'll see. Hopefully I don't talk for like a whole hour, as I have done in the past when I'm flying solo, but a lot to talk about, a big news and everything. So we'll touch on that and see what else, what else we can get to during this time frame. But as always, hopefully everybody's having a good time watching playoff baseball, all that good stuff. No Rockies baseball to suffer through. Currently, Division Series is gotten underway over this past weekend. So, fun stuff. Still rooting Mariners would be my preference. And then probably nationally, could probably go with the Phillies. That's probably my go-to. I'd go with connection with the Phillies and whatnot, but fun times to be had by all. But ultimately, a lot to get into, so we'll just get into it. The big news happened with the Rockies here that will be the talk of the offseason for us for probably a while, depending on how long this will be, how long this search will be for. But really, the Rockies took their first major step, I think, in trying to rebuild, and everything was recently this week, on Wednesday, it was announced Bill Schmidt was stepping down as the general manager, not fired per se, stepping down, and the Rockies said they would begin an external search for a new head of baseball operations. Now, we all knew it was coming. That was just, after 119 loss season, change has to happen. Somebody's head has to roll. Somebody has to be, following the dagger. And ultimately, it did go back to Bill Schmidt as the general manager, the guy who constructed the team, who's been a big part of the drafting and development and selection of so many of the guys that are on the roster. Ultimately, it does fall on him as the guy who just didn't get it done. And so he's been with this club since 1999, steps down now, finally. I don't know, maybe if he's leaving the organization entirely or if he'll just be reassigned. But yeah, them saying, hey, he's resigning. He has stepped down from the general manager post. He could still be in the organization for all we know, really. That was the weird thing with his contract, is that he was an officer of the club whose position just happened to be general manager. It wasn't necessarily, he was hired as general manager. His contract is that he's the general manager. No, he's an officer of the club. We'll see what happens. Maybe if he does stick around, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. Maybe. But overall, it'll be interesting to see whether he does stick with the organization, maybe in some capacity, or if he just moves on and he kind of retires and whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised there either if that's the case, and this is him just kind of like, man, I'm done with the organization as a whole. No, I don't want to go back to things. So we'll see what happens with the fallout of that. But the big thing is that he is stepping down. He assumed this role in 2014 2021, sorry. 2021, when Jeff Bridich was resigned, stepped down. There's that word again, resigned, mutually agreed to part ways type thing, but steps down. And Bill fills in as the interim GM. They had the promise that they were going to go outside and conduct a proper search after the season, but in the closing days of the season, they're like, no, actually, Bill's the guy. that we want. He's done a good job. He had all the right skills right down the hall. He was in-house. So we're just going to go with him. And unfortunately, during his tenure, it was just continually some of the worst seasons in Rockies history, including the first 100-loss season in 2022, followed by the 2023, followed by the second in 2024, and then ultimately whatever a disaster 2025 was with 119 losses. It doesn't cut it. And so the big step is that he gets the axe as head of baseball operations. And this was a long time coming and everything. But looking back at Bill Schmidt's tenure, he followed the pattern of the Rockies' problems. Here's a guy who's been with this organization since 1999 when he got hired by Dan O'Dowd. He's 66 years old at the time of getting released from the position. And, it was in player development. It was in vice president of scouting. So here's a guy with a baseball mind, kind of different, who, okay, he has an eye for talent. No, he had a key spot in drafting players that were in the 2007 draft, in 2000, or that helped the 2007 team to the World Series, those division series in 2009, and also under Jeff Bridich, he was there to help select guys and that helped 27 and 2018 seasons. So there's no question that Bill Schmidt was good at his job in helping identify talent, bringing talent into the organization. The crazy thing is that none of it translated into running a modern big league front office. Now, does it all fall on Bill Schmidt? Yeah, not all of it. Now, of course, Dick Monfort has his hand in all of this, but the promise that, hey, we're going to go outside and, oh, never mind, the perfect guy's right down the hallway. No, the safe answer was already in the house. And nothing that he was doing, the drafting has been horrendous. No, even dating back to before he was GM, in the modern era, since in this modern day baseball that we're in right now, the Rockies have gotten nothing out of their draft players. Oh, I saw the thing where Jordan Beck, out of the last decade or so, Jordan Beck is the only drafted player that has made the majors and has a positive wins above replacement. And that's at 0.1. That is pathetic. Of the position players especially. No, it's been horrendous. Absolutely awful. So, and that falls back on the GM. No, Bill Schmidt, he's definitely had his foot in his mouth moments. Talking about analytics and kind of pushing back. Kept everything close to his chest. Every interview you see, he was just not engaging with it. And then, we couldn't really trust him in anything he said. More he's talking about analytics. He's like, oh, well, I've looked at a spreadsheet 30 years ago. That type of stuff. Or, the constant touting of draft and develop. We have to get our own players, our philosophy. It's going to work. There's a lot of bamboo. All this honestly garbage and word salad, would never ever say anything substantial. And it's best quotes Tyler Freeman, he would consider a baseball player. In the draft, we're going to get a good player. You could tell he was far behind the time. Now, did he have the resources? No, the Rockies do not have the resources. We're not allocating the resources. But it's also because they're just not putting the right people in place. And so the fact that they're willing to move on and say, Bill, this isn't working, we're going to move on to somebody else and bring in some outside perspective, is huge. And we'll touch on that in a second. But let's just look at what, here's what Bill Schmidt said in the press release. After a number of conversations, we decided it is time for me to step aside and make way for a new voice to guide the club's baseball operations. It's been an honor to serve in the Rockies family for over 25 years. I'm thankful to the Monfort family for the opportunity, to my family for their constant support, and our staff for their tireless dedication. Better seasons are ahead for the Rockies and our great fans, and I look forward to seeing it come to life in the years ahead. So yeah, you can take that what you will. Maybe it is a signal like, yeah, he's probably going to retire, or he's moving on. He's not going to come back with the club or stay with the club in some form. But, Dick Monfort, lauding his longtime service to the club. He says, Bill has been an integral part of the Rockies family for over 25 years with countless contributions to the organization over that time. We are deeply grateful for his service, his friendship, and his dedication, and wish him and his family nothing but the best in the future. Yeah, so that kind of says, yeah, he's probably not with the organization anymore. So everything I've said up to this point is moot. But as with any transition, Bill's departure allows our club to seek a new leader for our baseball department, experienced in areas where we know we need to grow within the operation. A new voice will benefit our organization as we work towards giving our fans the competitive team they deserve. So yeah, Bill was... You could probably tell behind the scenes, they liked him. A loyal guy to Dick Monfort for 25 years. Moving up through the system, but baseball is a sport where you can't afford to always be loyal, especially when you're a team like the Rockies. If they were competing and everything, yeah, it's easy to stay loyal and let's just keep churning guys in through the house. But when you've been so bad throughout most of your history, it's hard to applaud when they're loyal because you're loyal to the wrong people. It's that thing in Little Big League where, the one hitter that the kid loves, he doesn't want to come because, this one time he hit a home run and won the game and, but he's old and he's not doing well and he's not playing well. And the assistant coach is like, you can't afford to be a fan in this business. And that's been the Rockies' problem. That's been Dick Monfort's problem. Is that he's just too much a fan of the people that he comes into, which it's a good quality to be a fan of the people you're working around. But when that blinds you to the obvious problems you have in his organization, you run into situations like this that has been building. And I think that loyalty and unwillingness to really expand and try out new things really is what hurt Bill Schmidt under his tenure, as general manager, because he focused a lot on trying to extend in-house guys, trying to follow the example of the Atlanta Braves. Let's lock up these players that are ours, and we'll be good. We'll build from there. We'll build that core there. But the major thing in free agency was Chris Bryant, and that one was really pushed by Dick Monfort, but Bill Schmidt still signs off on it and brings it across, and that has not panned out. 170 games over 4 years for Chris Bryant. And who knows if we'll ever see him play again in any capacity, even a game, because of the back injuries. But beyond that, the other signings that he's done, the extensions, have not panned out. Antonio Senzatella, 5 years, $50.5 million, who's going to be a reliever now, earning $12 million next year in roughly his free agent year. Ryan McMahon, it was 6 years, $70 million. That was very team friendly, and it was an okay deal production wise, but still, you had been locked up to a guy that wasn't performing consistently on the field or the way you needed him to, in the heart of that lineup. Kyle Freeland, 5 years, $64.5 million, a big overpay. He's getting $16 million for being a guy with an ERA slightly under 5. That's not going to cut it. It's okay to keep him around, but big overpays for some of these guys. Tovar, 7 year, $63.5 million. That one's still okay. We'll see how it ages, but he's still got a long way to go in his development at the big league level. There's still obvious problems that he has and everything. And then, Herman Marquez, been a couple times extended. And one of those, because of Tommy John, he has a horrible year in 2025. Chris Bryant, or CJ Crone, okay, but you stuck him around. Elias Diaz, the same type of thing. And then the guys you bring in, it's a lot of these 1 year, here's this random veteran reliever. Here's some minor league deals of guys who are probably going to be big components to it. But it's very telling that a lot of the guys that came in and did have success with the Rockies were guys that the Rockies had nothing to do with their upbringing, their development process. I think we look at this year in 25, Tyler Freeman and Mickey Moniak, acquisitions that turned out pretty well. Jimmy Herget, same thing. Guys that they acquired and had really good seasons, pretty good seasons, had nothing to do with the Rockies, really. And we look in years past where Jake Cave turns in a solid year and things of that nature. Jose Iglesias is another example of that. So we can look across guys under Schmidt's tenure, and the development process has not panned out, and it's really hurt him. And for a team that is going to keep crying out, we can't compete with the free agent market and all this and that, the fact that they have not cracked how to develop stars, a consistent process to develop good contributing players, and instead it's we hope this kind of guy pans out this year, instead of, okay, we're going to throw him in and see how it works. Okay, and then it's not working, and having a consistent process of consistent, successful development. It falls back to the GM, who is the head of those operations, and helping figure it out and get people in place and figure out the talent who can excel, all these things. Rockies just didn't do it. And Bill Schmidt, had his time and swung some deals. It was that hesitance to trade type of thing. It was always this reliever that we weren't going to re-sign anyway, so we're going to flip him for whatever we can get. Now we look at the Daniel Bard trade. That one was probably the most egregious, where, hey, we can't trade him. People want him, but we're not going to trade him. We want to extend him. We need him. No, we need this premier closer for a team on its way to 100 losses, or we're going to come close. But no, we're going to extend this reliever who then hardly pitches over the next 2 years successfully over the course of that contract. Just dumb moves, foolish moves. A blind squirrel can find a nut every once in a while, and Bill Schmidt definitely did that and found plenty of good talent while scouting. But he kept going back into that well. Well, I scouted this guy several years ago in high school, and I wanted to take him, but we couldn't. So I'm going to get him now. It was a lot of that, too, turning back the clock and focusing on guys who wanted to be here. That was the joke. Oh, a guy wants to be here, so we're going to bring him back. It was a lot of desperation for the Rockies. Everything that Bill Schmidt did move-wise, it wasn't proactive and hunting guys down. It was waiting for guys and honestly trades to come to him, and then he would make his move. So there was a lot of, I think, lethargic nature for the Rockies. And when you've been doing something, been in an organization for that long, it's only natural that's going to be kind of your tendencies to how you approach the roster, how you approach the team. You've been there forever. We talked about it last week. You've been there forever. Where are you going to get innovation from? Bill Schmidt obviously didn't have the innovation. And there was just no fire or urgency. I think that's the biggest thing. There was just no urgency to try and right the ship. It was just kind of consigned to, we're just going to take the slow process and see how it goes. And then it was kind of a panic. Oh, we got to start bringing up all these rookies. And oh no, all of our rookies are not doing well. Our pitching, we were hopeful. It is not good. Oh no. And he swung some good trades. Griffin Herron had a good, solid year and finished the year strong in the Rocky system. But we'll see. But Bill Schmidt was not the answer, and I'm surprised it took him this long to fire him. After inaction and not really doing anything to make the roster better, it was just treading water, and ultimately, finally, it took 119 losses to finally do something. And we'll talk a little bit more about it and what comes next here on Affected by Altitude, so don't go anywhere. Plenty left to go here. Welcome back here to Affected by Altitude. Skyler Timmins here with you, all by my lonesome. I'm just so lonesome, I could cry. But, so the Rockies canned Bill Schmidt as the general manager, and it's interesting that this is the start for the Rockies, and part of fixing a problem is recognizing there is a problem. And really, this feels like it goes back to over the summer when Walker Monfort was announced that he's going to be promoted to executive vice president of the team. I think we're still getting some clarity on what exactly Walker is going to be involved with, what his role entirely is. Because I partly get the feeling that he essentially is running as the president of baseball ops. We'll see. But that was kind of what Greg Fiesel was he just oversaw business, like baseball operations, just like the day-to-day running of the club. And Bill Schmidt was the general manager in charge of all the player contracts and all that stuff. And I could feel that that's still the path that the Rockies go down of just, they've always seemed to treat the front office hierarchy as, it was Dick Monfort, then for a long time, it was him, then the GM, and then everybody else underneath. And then Greg Fiesel gets put in as the club president, the team president of baseball operations. But he was strictly like working on the sponsorships, bringing in revenue sources. And that's the role that Walker is moving into primarily. But the power dynamics of how is this front office going to work now is the big question of the offseason. Because first and foremost, they say in that press release they are looking for a new head of baseball operations, an external search. Now, they said they're going to conduct an external search when it came to when Bill Schmidt was hired. I feel like they're a little bit more inclined to do it this time around. But still, you always have to be a little weary of who's Dick Monfort going to actually allow to come in and touch it and play with his baby. But I think it goes back to when Walker gets put in, it's kind of signaling a change of the power dynamics for the Rockies front office. I think Dick Monfort has realized more and more that I need to pull back a little bit and I need to let Walker run things, do his thing, and the fact that they've acknowledged we need a new vision for this team is huge. And I think Walker's probably had a little bit of an influence over his dad. Say, hey, Dad, we need to change something. We need to do something new. This isn't working. That's a good sign at least. And that can give you maybe some optimism as we go into this offseason. But it's going to be huge for them because this isn't a temporary fix. Oh, well, here's a guy who can help us fix in 2026 and rebound quickly. No, this is going to be a process of finding somebody with a vision, a multi-year vision, a 5-year plan, so to speak, of here's how I'm going to help you, the Rockies, build into a contender. And this feels like it's going to be an interesting uncharted territory because the Rockies have never really done full tear down, rebuild. You can't quite do it as easily now because of the draft, and then you have the CBA negotiations that are going to come up and a likely lockout after 2026. So it's hard to figure out how do you plan for the future. That's so uncertain with how things are going to operate after a CBA and the team as a whole and revenue streams, all these things. So you have to find somebody who is the right fit. Not just a connection of a guy who worked here before, but someone who legitimately has a plan, a vision that the team is going to let actually implement that plan. That's probably the biggest thing, is that you need a guy that can come in and have control to do what he needs to, do what he wants, and Dick is there to sign the checks and sign off on things and say, okay, I trust you, do your thing. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's probably the biggest question. Walker's come in, they've implemented, they have the idea of change, which is great. But when it comes down to it and their feet are getting put to the fire, a new guy comes in, or even during the interview process, it's that moment where they get, Dick Monfort especially gets a little scared. No one hears things of, we got to tear this thing up. We got to trade off guys. to rebuild, restock your farm system. We got to change how we do things. Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, Chase Dolander. We're going to trade these guys to stock up your farm system. Full teardown. Charlie Condon gets put on the trading block type thing. I could just drastic things. What's going to be too drastic that the Rockies, Browns are like, oh, whoa, we don't want that. No, we're just looking for you to shake things up a little bit. We don't want full, extreme makeover home edition, ripping down the house and rebuilding it in 24 hours. So it's going to be interesting. I would love to be a fly on the wall to hear what plans, guys that interviewed for the job and right fit, but don't just go for history, guys. Thad Levine is the one that keeps getting, probably his top candidate in the Rockies wish list, which, not terrible. Had his success in Minnesota, but a lot of the guys that have been rumored of, targets that the Rockies could interview and try to sway, most of them have connections to the Rockies. They've had success out of the organization, so, it's not fully, but you still get a little pessimistic when you see, oh, he worked in the organization for 5 years in this aspect of the organization. You're like, okay, that can go one of two ways. Or one, it's the comfort pick. Oh, well, we know him. He knows how it is here. And he's not able to do as much as maybe he wants to. But then it's the adverse of guy with no connection to the Rockies still then maybe has his hands cuffed. So it's hard to know what the heck to expect. Because this organization is just, we've known how they've operated for 30 plus years now. We know how they operate. We know how Dick prefers to do things. And so it makes things a little interesting, a little just uncertain. But that fact that they have to look out and be open to all ideas is important. Getting outside of the organization, bringing in outside eyes, a new set of eyeballs. That's what Walker kept talking about over the summer. Charlie Monfort's talked about it. Getting just new sets of eyeballs on the situation. Convincing Dick to let people do their jobs. Do things that maybe he's not, are out of his comfort zone. New set, new vision. To bring a new culture and process to the Rockies is desperately needed. This team is a stale loaf of bread. So somebody needs to come in and make a fresh new loaf. And hopefully that's what they allow him to do. And so, because then I think once they get somebody in place, I think they're going to want to try and get somebody in as quickly as possible. Within before the end of the World Series, get that in and then get their coaching situation figured out. I can see the Rockies definitely wanting to just roll with Warren Schaefer, which would be totally fine. But they want to get those ducks in place, get a new guy in, and then I think that would be the real test of autonomy is, okay, now find your general manager or find your manager that you want for the team. Is it Warren Schaefer? Okay, great. If not, okay, who are you going to bring in that's going to help fit your vision and work well within the process that you're going to have to try and rebuild? Because this isn't just a guy coming in to help fix the big league team. This is a guy who's got to come in and help fix the entire organization from bottom up, from drafting, development, scouting, analytics, top to bottom. Whoever gets this job, oh boy, they got a lot on their plate. But it's a challenge, and I think that's what's cool. We would think so many people, I don't want to come to the Rockies because that'd be an awful place. But the fact that we keep seeing rival executives, this is a dream job for a lot of young upcoming guys. This is a dream job because they want to figure out the challenge of winning at Coors Field and really cement that legacy. That's a comforting thought. Honestly, it's nice to hear that, okay, this isn't the hellhole that nobody wants to come to. It's one that people want to desperately come and fix. And hey, I'm all for it and whatnot, but it's going to be interesting. And that decision of whether will they hire a president of baseball ops who then can hire a GM and go down there? Or will it just be a GM, who basically is the PBO, but also the GM, and then he has assistant GMs and whatnot. But yeah, just more. We'll just see what the process is. Interesting to think, but yeah, bring in a new vision. That's what they need. And the biggest thing for me is the new guy has to really beef up the analytics department, because the rest of the league knows these guys are like 20 years behind everybody else. You can see it in the way they play on the field. It's no question the Rockies are behind. So coming in and investing and really bringing in top-notch people in the analytics department to just boost the availability of information and process of figuring out how to win at Coors Field and on the road, that's priority number one. Rockies do have talent in the system. They do. Bill Schmidt brought in talent. They didn't bring in the talent to develop them. And that's been the biggest issue for me. You've brought in good players through the draft and prospects that you've traded for, but then they have floundered at the big league level. Why? Because they haven't developed properly. They're not prepared, and then once they get to the big leagues, the development seems to stop. And that cannot happen anymore. It can't. So best of luck to whoever gets that job. It'll be fun to see. Hey, if Dick Monfort or Walker are listening to this, I can do it. Hire me up. I've won multiple World Series in Out of the Park Baseball and MLB The Show. So, hey, who says no? But yeah, fun stuff. But it'll be interesting. Rockies got a lot to do with personnel and whatnot. It's a young team. There is potential in there. It just needs the support from the front office, and we'll go from there. But stay tuned here on Affected by Altitude. We'll keep talking about it, and once Evan comes back, we can, if they haven't hired anybody or we hear more about candidates that have interviewed, we can talk about them and who we would prefer. But we'll go ahead and take one last break here, and then we'll come back quickly, talk about some Arizona Fall League things here on Affected by Altitude. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back here to Affected by Altitude. Skyler Timmins here, all on my lonesome, wearing my City Connect hat from the 2025 campaign. I didn't like the hats at first, or the uniforms. It really grew on me over the course of the year. They look good. I like the look of these things. I still like the jersey of the old ones. You can, if you're watching the video version, you see my Charlie Blackmon one hanging up. I still like the license plate ones. The Sunrise ones are fine. They're still pretty neat and unique. But I think I like those old ones still a little bit better. But, hey, 2 years, good City Connects for the Rockies, which is, hey, good sets. But rounding things out here for the last 15 minutes or so, Arizona Fall League starts this next week. On October 7th, I believe, is opening day. Of course, the Rockies, again, will be part of the Salt River Rafters, mostly because they help own the stadium there, but they'll at their spring training facility. This year, they'll be joined by the Arizona Diamondbacks, Boston Red Sox, Angels, and Los Angeles Angels, and Pittsburgh Pirates. So plenty of time, plenty of players. The Rockies will send 8 players, including 5 pitchers, to Arizona, along with a coach and athletic trainer. A good squad heading down. Of the pitchers, you've got right-handed pitcher Cade Denton. Now, it was mostly like a reliever. Not Wellington Herrera, another reliever. Beef had a phenomenal year with Double-A Hartford. Jack Mahoney, starter, spent most of the year in Double-A Hartford. Ben Shields, another one who was brought over in the, I believe, the Jake Bird trade. And then Austin Smith, who was brought over in the Tyler Kinley trade, I believe. So you got 2-year trade pieces that you acquired this year heading down, and then 3 of your homegrown prospects heading down. A couple of relievers, a couple of starters, all those things. A good-looking group there. Jack Mahoney has that potential. We'll see. But Wellington Herrera, I think, is a guy that, look for him in 2026. for the Rockies. No, left-handed reliever. They're short on him. It's Luis Peralta at the moment is kind of your main one coming back into 2026. He kind of settled himself in a little bit there down the stretch when he came back. But, I think that's what the Rockies are going to be looking for. So Wellington Herrera, after that year, here's a guy, okay, can he make that quick jump up to the big league roster? I think so. No, he proved himself a really strong year, and Beef had a great year, and you need that lefty out of the bullpen. Awesome to get another guy out there. And Jack Mahoney with the Rockies, if anything, this season proved the Rockies farm system, their depth with starting pitching, it ran a little thin. And so you need guys more like Ben Shields or like Jack Mahoney to really, take that next step forward and really get into a position where they could potentially help the team next year. Jack could start the year again in Double-A, or he gets moved up to Triple-A. He's not too far off, so the finishing touches, that's really what Arizona Fall League is. It's kind of that Major League boot camp. Okay, guys that are on the cusp who could help, get them in there. And so, pitching-wise, some good arms, good names, connect to, pay attention to. Position players, Rockies have 3 position players. Utility infielder Braylon Wimmer, spent year with Double-A Hartford, also with Spokane. Nice solid year. Utility guy across that infield. Play third, play second, all that stuff, shortstop. He can move across that infield diamond. A good utility type of player, which is awesome. Rockies need guys like that. But then the other 2 are the ones who are going to be really interesting because they just keep moving up. Friend of the show, Jared Thomas, spent most of the year, had a phenomenal start to the year in Spokane, and then moved up to Double-A for the second half of the year. Continued to do very well there. So we'll see what happens with Jared, but guy left-handed, nice contact swing, can play all 3 outfield positions, can play some first base if absolutely needed. But yeah, with the Rockies outfield that's so, it's uncertain. Nothing is set in stone for them. Jared can really make some strides coming into the 2026 season. I don't see him starting this season on the big league roster, breaking camp, but a guy in AAA that could kind of be like a Sterling Thompson this year, where Sterling Thompson probably could have made his debut with the Rockies, but they kept him down there all season. But in a phenomenal year, a strong year offensively and defensively in the outfield, he can come up and be a piece into that outfield puzzle. In right field's kind of an open tryout for really anybody at this point, depending on if they bring Mickey Moniak back. But even then, Mickey wasn't that good as an outfielder defensively. So it opens up Zach Veen, Yanquiel Fernandez. You can throw Jared Thomas into that, Sterling Thompson. So there's options there, and Jared can make a move. And so a strong showing in in Arizona Fall League goes a long way carrying into the 2026 season. And then probably the biggest one, and the guy that everybody's going to keep an eye on, especially in 2026, is old Charlie Condon, friend of the show as well. Charlie's had a strong first full year campaign between Spokane and Hartford. Really started to find his power in the second half of the season in Hartford as he recovered from those hand injuries from last year, and then the broken wrist during spring training. As the year went on, you could see he was getting more comfortable, more power at the plate, and was really going on a tear. And so he's pretty much made first base his home coming in, finishing out the season. That's probably the best spot for him. And coincidentally, it's a spot that's a wide open tryout in spring training for the Rockies. Michael Toglia has fallen far out of grace, it seems. And you've got Warming Bernabel and Blaine Krim, perfectly fine, but they're not the future of the position, especially Blaine Krim. First base will be a spot this offseason the Rockies have to work on, and it's really finding who's going to be the placeholder until Charlie Condon's ready. And so Charlie can finish out the year strong in the Arizona Fall League, see where he's at, get some more at bats and really get into a good place, fully prove, okay, I'm healthy, I'm ready to go, and then he can make a run for it in spring training. He could try and snag a spot, or they can wait. No, they don't need to start his clock quickly, but making sure that he's ready and good to go. And he's going to get that full run in spring training, which is going to be fun to see. But overall, like a good, solid group. Rockies are sending to the Salt River rafters. And not much else. I'm excited to see what Condon and Thomas can continue to do. And I'm glad those guys are coming into their own. Those two are a really good 1-2 punch. In Hartford, Charlie was really starting to hit out of that 2-hole, which was great. And then you'd have Jared right behind him. So it was Cole Carrig, Charlie Condon, Jared Thomas. That's a really good 1-2-3, top of your order in the lineup. And all three of them had awesome success. I almost would like to see Cole Carrig there, but he had such a good year. I don't think he needs to go in. No. But a nice, solid crew heading down to the Arizona Fall League. And then, of course, personnel. Flint Wallace, coordinator of pitching strategies, will be the pitching coach. And then Justin Wilson, who is the athletic trainer for the High A Spokane Indians, is heading down to be the athletic trainer. They will begin on Monday, October 6th, and the season goes until Saturday, November 15th. Fun time. If you want some more baseball, especially during, after the World Series is done, or just kind of in between, you want to see, I want to see some of my guys. I want to see some minor league-esque baseball. Go ahead and watch the Arizona Fall League. You can find all their games for free over on you can find their website over on the Arizona Fall League website through minor league baseball. But it's a fun way you can sit and watch. They're nice, simple little broadcasts, kind of like you're watching a spring training game with camera angles and whatnot, depending on the places that you go to. But Salt River Field usually has pretty good camera angles, and go River Rafters. They keep winning championships or getting up there. So nice competitive baseball, and it gives you a chance to see some good teams and whatnot, good players for the future of the game. But anyway, I think that is going to call it here for this edition of Affected by Altitude, episode 182. Can't believe we've been doing it this long. It's been 5 seasons in total. 4.5 technically, but we did enough. We could get the full year service time from our first year. But as always, we appreciate you tuning in and sticking along with me. Hopefully Evan gets better and we can have some more further fun conversations, because sometimes it's not fun just listening to me ramble for 40 minutes or so. But as always, you can find me over on Twitter at Skyler Timmins, or on Blue Sky at stimmins13.bsky.social. You can also find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all your social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. That's at Rocky Mountain Rooftop, at ROCKYMTN Rooftop. You can also find us over on YouTube. Check out the YouTube channel for the video versions of the show, as well as extra content like Rooftop Mingles that we had this season. There should be a playlist that you can go find and look back at all the interviews that we've done over these last 2 seasons with minor league players, as well as a couple of others. But also, you can find Every Rocky Ever. Hopefully we can bring that back over during the off season. I talked to some guys, and we'll keep trying to find some other content, tooling around the idea of, hey, Rockies are looking for a new GM. Why don't I play out of the park baseball and live stream that and see what I can do as GM? But stay tuned for that. We'll try and figure something out. But yeah, fun times. Appreciate you tuning in. And until next time, this has been Affected by Altitude. I'm Skyler Timmins. Farewell! This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.